So, what's up?
It's just nighttime. I'll probably be going to bed after this conversation. Got an early morning tomorrow, just coaching, paying some bills.
And you are located in Philippines, right?
Panglao, Philippines, yeah.
You were born and raised in this place, or you moved at some point? Because it's not
Yeah, I started in the US. Mostly grew up in Florida. But yeah, after COVID-19 happened, that stopped my old life. Everything kind of shut down. And then I started kind of going to nature. And that's when I started the free dive. So I'm relatively actually new in the scheme of things. I only been free diving since 2021.
This is another crazy story. I've seen obviously your short videos about the story, but how is it possible from being a professional dancer to end up in the Philippines like a world champion with only 3 years, four, I don't know, in the sport of free diving?
I
It's
think it's
complete
mainly because of. I think it's mainly because that first year, I almost took like no rest days. I probably did 3 years worth of training all in the first year, so it makes sense that I would progress like somebody that had been doing it for 3 years. So eventually, I learned I needed the rest. I mean, you can't break 100 meters and keep going without rest. Like I managed to do it to 100 meters, resting only when I couldn't find dive buddies. But once I broke 100 meters, I started running into issues if I didn't take rest.
how many people in the world are able to free dive at 100 meters, you as far as you know?
I mean, people have made guesses and assumptions.
Yeah, just
I know that there's a lot. I know there's a lot more people now from the first time I broke 100 meters to now today. I think there's a lot more 100-meter divers now since the time I broke it. So it's just happening more and more often now. So like just to put it in perspective, there were only 3 Americans that had broke 100 meters before I started freediving. And it from the first person that broke 100 meters, which was Nick Mavoli, to the third person that broke 100 meters, it took 10 years to get 3 Americans that could break 100 meters. Okay, when I broke 100 meters, I was the fourth American. And within the next 3 months of me breaking 100 meters, 3 more Americans broke 100 meters. So it took 10 years for 3 Americans to break 100 meters. And then after I did it, it took 3 months for another 3 people to break 100 meters. So, I mean, once people start to see that things are possible, people start to do it.
Yeah, obviously, but I think there are very few people that are able to do it globally. Like 100,
I think maybe,
I don't know.
yeah, I think the number, like this is just a random assumption. I think it's probably between 100 and 150. That would be my guess, somewhere between 100 150. But
How?
the number uh, of 110-meter divers and more, I think that's probably less than 50.
Yeah,
Certainly, probably less than 50, probably like 25 people.
completely crazy. How long did it took you from starting? You obviously you started as a complete amateur, the sport.
Yeah. Uh,
You were a swimmer or
I
something
started,
like that.
no, just dancer. Uh, so I started January of 2021. I went on a trip to Mexico just to see some of the cenotes. And then December 23rd, 2021, I broke 100 meters. So it took me just less than a year to go from 0 to 100 meters.
Complete zero to hero.
But I mean, like I said, man, the only days that I took rest were days when I couldn't find a dive buddy. And I was pretty good at finding dive buddies. Like I didn't care who they were or where they were or what I had to do. I would get in the water the next day and train and train and train. So I kind of like didn't have a life at all. That was it.
Obviously, your life was freediving at this point, but how long after your start, your zero moment on freediving, you said, "Okay, I'm going to become a completely professional or the best in the world," as you mentioned in your video?
Uh, I don't know why, man. I believed I could do this pretty early on. It was really naive, but I think it was during my trip to Mexico. So like it was within that first 2 weeks, I was like, I started to think I could do things that were just going to be impossible by most standards. Um, because when I went to Mexico, I didn't think I would progress as much as I did, and I progressed really fast just by putting on a nose clip and trying to dive with a nose clip. And there's a certain point in freediving for everybody, and it happens regularly when you outperform your expectations, and then all of a sudden the veil is lifted and you start to imagine what is possible. And for me, I almost instantly started to imagine what was possible. And for me, from most people, that would seem impossible. So I just thought that there is no limit to what people can do if you just put in the work. So I wanted to beat Alexi from the moment I started this, really.
It's completely unbelievable, all this story.
But yeah, unfortunately, ran into an injury last year, so I'm on the sidelines now. But you know that this is what fate has in store for me. So just need to roll with the punches.
You are obviously very strong about all of this situation and documenting it. Probably you must be one of the very, very few people that even talk about this type of injuries.
Yeah, I don't know how rare it really is. I think it's rare, but it's more common than we know.
Yeah.
People don't want to talk about it. But more importantly, like ever since making YouTube videos, I realize how much time it takes to make YouTube videos now. And there's no way I could have been training the way that I was and making YouTube videos at the same time. It's just not enough time in one day. And so maybe people just don't have the time to talk about it. So maybe they're not hiding. I just know I didn't have time to make the videos how I wanted to back when I was training. And now that I have time, I'm making the videos.
How many hours of the day you were training freediving?
Um, Most of the time, almost always at minimum 2 hours. Sometimes I would do 2 sessions in one day, so like 4 hours. I would go for a morning session and an afternoon session if I could find another dive buddy. And I wasn't doing it the easy way at first. Like I was in Hawaii for parts of it, and there can be a lot of waves in Hawaii, and you're responsible for setting up the buoy, swimming out to the mooring, setting it all up, tearing it all down, bringing it all back, packing it up. Like I was getting so malnourished during this process. I was becoming forgetful. I would leave my fins on the beach, lose fins. So I really wasn't doing this in the most efficient way. But in hindsight, doing it the hard way made it a lot easier once I found the better way. Like when I went to places like Dominica, or I came here and there's really good conditions, and it on a really bad day I can dive really good because I dove in pretty tough conditions for a little bit. And they weren't even like super tough, but they were tougher than what most freedivers would prefer.
Okay, lots of training. And the trips, I assume, were specifically just to find dive buddies, or you just wanted to combine it with traveling? For example, you wanted to see Hawaii and say, okay, I'm going to train in Hawaii now.
Um, so in Florida, like you have northern Florida divers, you have southern Florida divers. The northern Florida divers are all diving in springs that are a lot like cenotes. And the deepest one we have is like 45 meters. So it doesn't matter how good you get in freediving up north in Florida. If you reach 45 meters, that's your limit. You no longer have any more depth. So that's why I left Florida, because it was still kind of COVID-19 times. And uh, Hawaii seemed like a nice place to go in the middle of COVID-19. It was one of the few places I could travel to, actually, because it was within the United States. I wasn't sure. Like, I know Philippines was shut down, so I couldn't come here. So I went to Hawaii, and I knew they had more depth than what I had in Florida. So that was the plan. Just what kind of depth do they have, and start progressing my way to get there. And from the time I arrived, well, to answer your question, the reason I wanted to travel in general to train is because when I went to Mexico and I saw how fast I could progress if I just had depth and people that were better than me to train with, that became like the golden ticket. Like, I started to realize in freediving, if you want to play, if you want to train with the best people in the world, you're just one message away from doing that. Whereas, like, in football, if you want to play with like the best football player, what are the odds that you're going to be able to train with that person? It's very slim. In freediving, if you want to if you want to train with the best people in the world, you can just message them and you can probably train with them. So the barrier to entry is very small. And when I realized that, I just realized I needed to go to places that were deep enough and train with people that were better than me. And that was going to be my recipe to get better faster. Whereas a lot of people might try to get certifications like level 1, 2, 3, wave 1, 2, 3, instructor. But I would look at those people and they really weren't getting much better. Like, they were getting these certifications, but they really weren't getting that much better.
Yeah, like
So
me, for example.
what's the point? Well, I mean, it comes back. What's the point of freediving? Do you want to just teach others? Then I guess instructor is okay if that's what you want to do. But if the point of freediving is to get better, well, then getting an instructorship and getting certifications is not the fastest and most efficient way to do it. The fastest and most efficient way to do it is the way that all the elite athletes do it. They travel to places that are deep enough and they train alongside people that are better than them or equal to them with the proper safety measures. And that's what the best people in the world do. So I recognized this very soon. So I was like, okay, I don't need to spend money on certifications. That's not really working, at least from what I can see. So I'll just travel to places that are deep enough. And at the time, one of the 100-meter divers that were American was in Hawaii, and so that's the person I contacted. And my goal was to go there, spend time there, try to train alongside him, and learn what he learned, and learn what he could show me. And that's what I did. And I went from barely a 45-meter diver to 80 meters within 6 weeks.
Crazy.
And then I just continued every day. And then I just continued to train there for, yeah. One of the more valuable things that that person gave me, besides just like what he does, is he gave me a very long list of names. And he said, I can't train with you every day, but here's a list of people that can, or like just contact these people on days when I can't train with you. And that's what I did. I hit up everybody and I was just like, hey, can you train tomorrow? Can you train tomorrow? And if I got a yes, I was training tomorrow. So I trained like almost every day for like 4 months. I mean, I probably took off 2 days every 2 weeks, maybe.
So you think that this is the result of the sport being, let's say, somehow immature regarding compared to football?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Like the sport, it's not so huge as it's football, so you are able to reach people that are excellent on this and train with them, for example, and they are eager to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the best thing you can do in any sport is find the people with the most experience and try to learn from them. And in freediving, that can happen very quickly. You can just message somebody on Instagram and be talking to a world record holder in 5 minutes. So, like, if you're a freediver trying to get better, you should exploit that. You really should. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, if your goal is just to teach others, then yeah, you should probably get an instructorship. But my goal was not to teach others. My goal was to teach myself and try to just get as good as I could.
You were like, I'm going to become the best in the world, to like you say in the video.
Yeah, and that was the goal. I mean,
Every time you were training depth, because as far as
I never wasn't.
there are pools, like I have been to some pools in Greece where people train free diving, and there are record holders training there, like daily, and not in depth.
Are you talking about the deep pools or just regular?
No, the regular pools.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're clearly pool divers as well. I never trained pool,
Oh,
but it certainly has its place. I just know I'm not alone, but I know I'm in the minority. Most deep freedivers do incorporate pool into their freediving. I know a select few of us have not. We're just purely interested in depth, and we are just examples of you don't need pool to go deep successfully, but both ways work for sure. Like once I fully recover from decompression sickness, I'll probably do a lot more pool because I can't get decompression sickness in pool, or I'll be the first person to ever get it in pool, one or the other.
how is the situation, the recovery going?
I mean, I'm still not 100%, and so I don't plan on even trying to get to the bottom of this because I'm not exactly sure how it happened since I had a whole week of rest leading into that dive, and I had oxygen, but I just didn't have enough of it. Um, so there's really no answers just yet, and until I have some answers as to how it happened, I don't see myself diving over 60 meters. Um, Once I am fully recovered, and I don't know when that'll be, but I am heading to Taiwan next month to do 10 chamber sessions therapeutically to see if that can get me closer to 100%. But once I'm at 100% or very close to it, I'm going to go and try to get properly tested for a PFO.
Yeah.
It's like a hole in the heart. And
Life is these you prone to.
well, hypothetically and theoretically, that's what people would think, yes. It's a lot more studied in scuba diving. It's not well studied in free diving, but the same premise exists. So we think that this can be conducive to decompression sickness. I've been tested for it 3 times with a less accurate method, and they said I didn't have it. But once I'm closer to 100% recovery, I am going to go get tested with the more accurate method. And personally, I hope I do have it, because if I do have a PFO, it kind of gives me an answer as to how this happened. And then I have the option to get it closed. And then I can dive again, at least more confidently that this won't happen again. But if I don't have a PFO, it answers no questions. And then it leaves me and freediving in general in this world of, well, we clearly don't know anything. So if I don't have a PFO, it's really bad news for freediving because it gives us no answers to that question. If I do have a PFO, it's not the answer, it's just a better answer because it means that our assumptions might be right, but it's still just hypothetically a more brighter future.
I have so many questions. I'm trying to put my thoughts into an order.
That's all right.
Obviously, without being a doctor, I'm just asking questions and saying my opinions based on my personal research and what I've heard. For example, here in Greece, I've heard of relatively many people having issues with these things, that most of them are spear fishing that deep, like 40, 50 meters, and even on 20 something meters. Some of them have talked about it, while others, no. I've seen also something like a conference that was uploaded on YouTube in Greek some years ago, 7 years ago. And actually, this was pretty good because there was a hyperbaric doctor talking about some cases, this and that. Mostly about spearfishing people or people who dove like not more than 50 meters or 60 meters, for example. So the basic thing that comes to my mind and wanted to ask you is that this is something that I've heard both on this YouTube conference as well as from people in Greece, like that there is something called nitrogen debt.
Nitrogen debt?
Yeah, that I'm in a situation of debt.
What's the concept?
I don't know, that nitrogen is accumulated inside of them and this goes away by doing O2 recovery sessions, something like that. Some people, for example, say that they do one recovery session per year just to make the debt go away. But I even heard the doctor on this conference saying to somebody who just asked him that it's a good practice to do 30 minutes after each session of spearfishing, for example, if you are going deep. And then
Yeah, I mean, it's the same concept I do. Like, I fully believe that is the safest way to do it. But then again, I'm more prone to this. And so I would normally take the precautions of having oxygen out there. Whereas, for instance, the guy that I went to go see in Hawaii, he's been doing this for over 10 years and he's never gotten decompression sickness. And he'll train and do dives well over 100 meters without any oxygen because why would he? He's never had decompression sickness. So he's not scared of getting it. He's clearly not as prone to it. I guess the real question is, why am I more prone to it, you know?
my question
And
basically
yeah,
was because you said that you were training every day in depth.
yeah,
Maybe this somehow led to some accumulation over
nitrogen
time.
up over time.
Yeah, for example,
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
you can do some dives now and get the decompression sickness in 2 years, something like that. If you dive silly at 35 meters for spearfishing, I don't know. Again,
No, I've thought about that, and I intend to make a video on that actual theory and concept at a later date because I have thought about that. So here's the thing. I trained really without any break that first year, right? I didn't have decompression sickness. I was fine. Um, but this last year, I was probably, I mean, from February until June, I was resting sometimes 1 week. I was resting sometimes for 2 weeks in between my dives. But I've thought about that. I've thought that, wow, even if I'm resting for a week, even if I'm resting for 2 weeks, maybe I'm just overloading my body over such a long period of time with this nitrogen debt that it's a possibility that it's just a matter of time. And so we're just kind of talking in this theoretical realm right now, this hypothetical theoretical realm. And so it's hardly factual. It's more just experience that I can share. And on every occasion, I probably breathe more oxygen. For the past 2 years, after all of my dives, I've always breathed 100% oxygen. So it's not like I'm not trying to remedy this. I'm flushing my system after every dive. And I genuinely, when I'm coaching or training people, if they're doing a heavy session, even though I know they're not at risk for decompression sickness, if the oxygen is supplied for free at the place that we're diving, I always suggest, I'm like, do like 5 or 10 minutes on the O2. Like just flush your system. Just why not? If it's available and they're contributing it, if the dive school is contributing it, you might as well use it if you did have a heavy session. So I believe that, yeah, you should use it if it's available. And I do think it's a very interesting theory that even dives that I did 2 years ago could be building up just over amount of time. I know it's true. And it's why deep divers take 2 days of rest. They take 3 days of rest in competition. That's what they prefer. Some competitions have forced us to do back-to-back huge dives. Like CMAS, until this last year, would force competitors to do like their deepest constant weight dive, their deepest free immersion dive the next day, and then one rest day, and then CNF day, and then Bifins day. This last year was the first time CMAS finally separated the boys and girls, so it gave everybody at least an additional day of rest. I'm surprised it took them so long to do that, but that's the reason that all of the deep divers prefer and need that rest, because I call it residual bullshit. You're calling it like a nitrogen debt, but I call it residual bullshit. That every dive, the deeper you go, you're walking away from that dive with part of that dive still with you. There's no question. Even if you feel 100%, even if you feel great, 2 days later, there is still some of the dive left in your body. I know this to be true just based on my experience. And so that's why I would start resting a week and sometimes 2 weeks in between my deep dives, because I know this residual bullshit, after 100 meters especially, it starts to build up exponentially and compounds on top of itself.
This is crazy numbers, by the way. Imagine, to give you a metric, my personal best is something like 30 meters in free diving. I started this whole thing with spearfishing, and this terminology that I'm using, I've heard from world-class spearfishing guys who spearfish below 40, 50 meters, for example. Not in depth such as 80 meters or 100, okay? But they do it for many hours.
Yeah.
Repetitively. So it's a pretty common term, I could say, about this debt. But when you say recovery, would you be doing O2 sessions all this week to get rid of this nitrogen? I don't know. I don't even know how this goes off with the O2.
No, I would just do at a minimum 5 minutes at the surface or underwater with the oxygen after the dive. But another thing, spear fishermen, what spear fishermen do, I feel like it's way harder than what freedivers do. So I've been spearfishing, maybe under 10 times, but every time I went out spearfishing, that was a tough ass session. Like, I never went on an easy spearfishing session. Like, spear fishermen are a different animal. Like, they put in work, and I respect them for that. And I wish more of that mentality would transfer over to freediving, because freedivers are always looking for the most relaxed and streamlined way to get to their dive deep, and then just walk away. Whereas spear fishermen are, they're doing so many dives in one day. When you finish a spearfishing session, at least the ones that I did, I was worked out. I was spent by the end of the day. So the amount of effort that spear fishermen put in, I'm not surprised that decompression sickness could happen so often to them, because I think even doing enough 35-meter drops in one day, with the amount of drops that you do, could easily cause that nitrogen to build up, cause decompression sickness.
I've heard about
It doesn't happen more often.
in 20 meters.
Yeah. I feel like it could easily happen at 20 meters. There's no question. The first time I've ever experienced any kind of DCS, it was a very, very, very small symptoms. I was only diving between 40 and 45 meters. And 40 and 50 meters. And I did 5 dives, but they were longer dives. Like, I was taking my time on all of the dives. They were probably 3 to 4 minutes each. And it only happened at the end of the session when I was pulling up the bottom weight. And that's when I learned, okay, physical activity after a big session is not good. It's like shaking up a Coke bottle. And what transpired after that was a big headache, and I was just really dizzy. And for about 2 weeks, I would just randomly get these very dizzy spells. But I also flushed myself with oxygen for about 30 minutes. This was one of the more minor cases. At the time, I wasn't even 100% sure if it was DCS, but looking back, it most certainly was. And my dive buddy knew, and that's why he was very insistent that I go breathe oxygen after the session. So I do believe it can happen at 20 meters as well.
Okay, as far as I've seen from your videos, you had 3 cases. This was the first one?
Three, no, 3 severe cases. I make it a point to say 3 severe cases. There were 2 other occasions that were super minor, and it's hard to know if it was or if it wasn't, because on that occasion I had a headache, I was dizzy, and that was the extent of it. So it's hard to quantify that as DCS, but it makes sense that it might have been a very minor case. There was another occasion besides of that that wasn't severe, but my left hand just started to go a little bit weak, and I just continued to breathe the oxygen underwater, and then it went away.
Here I probably have some news about this situation because in this conference I told you earlier, I saw 2 or maybe 3 interesting um, points regarding our last minute discussion. First of all, the doctor said that there was a research among some good divers, free divers, who had more than 1,000 dives in 30 meters. These guys had no symptom of DCS, but they done some MRI brain scans and found some proof that they had some damage. I don't know. They had a different image compared to the normal one. So the free diving could be seen on their MRI. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting because that were the MRI images, were they indicative of a stroke? Because that's basically what happens whenever DCS happens. There's some blockage.
I think something like that is the thing he mentioned. And he also made a differentiation, which I haven't fully understand yet. But he said most of the cases that weren't, in many cases, the symptoms were alleviated by themselves after some hours or some days. And these cases, he said, weren't involving a brain embolism, something like that. While other cases who involved this kind of thing, the symptoms were becoming worse if stayed untreated. So he was saying like he's a spear fishing guy who works his ass off, and then he goes spear fishing. He has all these symptoms. He's very tired, exhausted, speech problems, and he says, "This is normal. I'm very tired. It's normal." So he goes to sleep. Then this might be gone, and he just passed a DCS incident without even realizing it.
I mean, I could see that being, well, the idea of air embolism versus decompression sickness, that's an ongoing debate right now where it's hard to test because it happens so infrequently, this whole thing. I don't know the ins and outs of what will cause an air embolism is a bubble going up there and rupturing versus a nitrogen bubble going up there and expanding. I don't know the key differences, but there is an ongoing debate between how to differentiate air embolism versus decompression sickness. And I don't have an answer. I just know that on that first occasion, I feel like I didn't absolutely need the oxygen. I'm happy that my friend insisted that I do it, but it was such minor incident that I don't think much would have happened if I didn't have the oxygen. Clearly, the deeper you go, the more that this can affect you. So like when I talked to Herbert Nitsch, he told me that even after the decompression sickness started, he went underwater with the oxygen, breathing the oxygen, and his condition was getting even worse while underwater breathing oxygen. Whereas anytime I've experienced this and successfully alleviated it, anytime I went underwater with 100% oxygen, it was alleviated almost immediately and permanently. So that tells me that he had it so bad that even being underwater wasn't fixing him. And he went twice as deep as me. So clearly, the amount of depth does exponentially affect the level of severity. And the more minor cases are still minor cases. And the extent to which I wonder, like in the cases that you're talking about, did these people have any recurring or prolonged symptoms reoccurring? Like, did they have impaired speech for the rest of their life? Like, or did it take, you know, things like that? Did they have continued weakness that never really improved, kind of thing, you know? Did everybody fully recover, I guess is the question.
About the severe cases or the light cases?
Well, just
Because
all of the
severe.
spear fishermen that did over 1,000 dives.
The spearfish, the free divers that did over 1,000 dives who have no symptoms mentioned. They were just subjected to the MRI and showed some damage, but they had nothing. They were completely fine.
Yeah, it's all interesting and like there's so many questions and so very little answers, and that's why I just try to share what happened with me on all of my experiences so that maybe other people will also share what happened to them so that we have a bigger value data set to actually decide what's happening because there's so much speculation and it's almost like medical porn for doctors and freediving nerds that want to know more about this stuff. Like decompression sickness is the ultimate medical porn. Like people want to understand it so much, but the only way we can understand it is by the people that have unfortunately experienced it. So until we get more actual data from these people, I think we still are going to live in the dark ages with this stuff.
About this guy you mentioned, Helbert Nietzsche, is he recovered?
Yeah.
But
Um, he, so you know who he is, right?
yeah, but I don't know much about him besides this crazy no limit records and the DCS incident.
Yeah. That was my thing. I was like, I didn't know much about him either, except for he's the guy that it happened to really badly. And I reached out to him and he got back to me immediately and was ready to talk if I needed to talk. And he told me personally, he said, in his own words, he said, it took me 2 years to be normal again, what he would call normal. But, you know, he also told me that he still can't run. If he wants to run, he can't run. So take that for what you will. If you can't run, whereas you otherwise could have, then I guess you're
Yeah.
really not fully recovered. And so when he told me that, I kind of use that as a benchmark. I also can't run right now, but if I get to a point where I can run, I'll be extremely grateful because if it's been over 10 years for that guy and he can't run, and if I get to a point where I can run, I know I've recovered pretty damn well at that point. Like
Okay.
I have movement on the left side, it's just not fast enough to run.
You feel when you try to run, you feel that you don't have the strength to do it, for example.
I mean, the strength is a little bit limited, but it's more like the reflexes. Like this leg will move normal fast, but this one will only move this fast. So if
Okay.
this is the right leg and it can move that fast, and this is the left leg, it can only move this fast. So you can't run. It'll be like,
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned it on your videos as well, when you were passing from these harder stages of recovery, the first ones. You say you were trying to learn all over again, to learn how to walk all over again.
yeah.
Uh, what was this thing? You mean like actually it was like your mind didn't remember how to walk because of some damage and you had to train it from the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, I certainly remember how to walk. I remember how to do a backflip, but I can't do it anymore. Um, I mean, it's exactly if you see a little kid holding the mom's and the dad's hand and they're helping the kid walk, that's exactly what's happening you're rewiring the brain, you're restructuring it. The old pathways don't work anymore, so it's building new pathways. So you remember how to do it, except the signal's just being sent improperly to where it needs to go. It's there's a traffic jam in the brain, and now it has to rewire itself to be able to move properly again. And that first 2 months, a lot of things improved, but that's pretty normal for a stroke recovery. Like most of the improvement will happen early on. And where I'm at, maybe I'm 93% right now, but I'm pretty sure that last 7% is going to take a while. Like I'm pretty plateaued and I'll see improvements considerably like once a week now.
While having recovery sessions in a chamber or something.
Well, I haven't had a chamber session in a long time, and that's why I'm gonna give this another go in Taiwan just to see if there's some research that stroke patients that have like had a stroke and even a year and a half later done therapeutic chamber sessions have seen recovery. My initial thoughts were, okay, if the nitrogen bubble's gone, well, then now I just need to repair the damage. But hyperbaric chambers, at least theoretically, or with some research, pressurized 100% oxygen can help heal the injured part of the brain. Or at least that is the hope. Yeah, I only had 11 sessions um, right when this happened. And if I could have got more sessions, I would have, of course, taken them. But I was a victim of circumstance. And I mean, the most major issue that went wrong, and it's unfortunate, is the hospital. The hospital kind of kept me hostage for 3 whole days. And
I've seen it.
I out of all the out of all the cases I've seen with decompression sickness, I've never seen anybody have to wait 3 days to get to a chamber, and that's why the fallout of what happened, was worse that happened, and I would have been there stuck longer if my girlfriend hadn't gotten me out of there. So that's the unfortunate part. Like, I messed up with the hospital, I messed up not having enough oxygen, but I could kind of a little bit move when I got to the hospital. I couldn't move at all. I could barely talk
Yeah.
by the time I left.
Crazy.
But yeah, maybe I'll take another swing at this whole world record thing once I get some answers, get it fixed, and I'll do it again and make for a good story.
Definitely a crazy story and a unique one to have been ever documented. So the the medical science suggests you to do like 1 or 2 chamber sessions in order to remove bubbles. What's the protocol when you went to the right hospital who had this knowledge? What did they tell you? What was their suggestion?
I mean, their suggestion was to do as many as the insurance was willing to pay. And at the time, the insurance only wanted to pay for 3 or 4 sessions. And by the time they said that they would only pay for 3 or 4, I had already done 9. So at least in the Philippines, things are a little bit more cost. Are they cost? The cost is more affordable in the Philippines, but efficiency wise, things aren't the most efficient. Like, there was a guy named Kevin working at the chamber, and he would continually do all the paperwork for me, send it into the insurance, even though there was no really guarantee of payment, because he knew that time was critical. He knew that if we waited for all the paperwork to get done, I would just be completely comatose. So, yeah, I mean, the more sessions you can get, the better. And I don't understand why insurance companies by default are going to say, okay, 3 to 4 sessions. What are they basing that on? Like, the more sessions you do within a short period of time, you should do as many as it takes to be 100% normal again. The fact that they were trying to limit me to 3 or 4 is kind of silly. I mean, they eventually paid for 9 and I did 11 sessions, but I wasn't 100% healed. They should, in my opinion, they should have kept paying for sessions. Like, I should have kept going. But after a while, I just assumed the nitrogen bubble's gone. So now I just have to fix the damage. But now I'm reflecting, I think $400 for 10 more sessions in Taiwan. I think that's a pretty good deal. So I'm going to go do that. I know somebody that's going to let me stay at their place, so I won't have to pay for a place to stay while I'm there. I think it's a worthy investment if there's any chance of 100% recovery. Like, I also went to India as I wanted to try some Eastern medicine, holistic stuff to improve. And some of that did work. Mainly the diet, changing my diet, changing what I eat. Really, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a miracle, 1 being nothing, it was at least a 3.5. Like, changing what I eat, I was actually noticing improvements faster just by changing my diet.
What did you change?
Where or what?
What did you change in
Um,
your diet?
I mean, they basically, it, I was eating like crap, really. Like, I would go to a taco place, have fried foods. I was just used to eating happy and healthy, or happy, full, healthy, just normal. Um, but what they suggested for me was like more like nuts and berries in the morning, like a rabbit. And if I wanted to eat meat, make it chicken oriented, um, but only eat anything meat oriented for lunch. And then for dinner, get back to a vegetarian or cooked vegetables kind of thing. And so they had me even on a stricter diet than that in India. Like, they were kind of starving me a little bit in this. And I guess theoretically, it makes sense that if your body isn't always using its energy to digest food, it can focus on healing itself. So I guess conceptually, that kind of makes sense. And in actual practicality, it did kind of work. Like, empty my body, detox my body of anything I have in it, and let the body focus on healing itself instead of focusing on digesting food constantly. So it kind of makes sense. And so I did it. I was hoping it would do a full recovery, but it didn't.
Even if it
So I
doesn't make
think,
sense, if it helped you, it's very good.
yeah, it's definitely worth the experience. And I'm still on a relatively strict diet because I feel like it worked well enough to stay on the diet. I've been thinking about pizza and ice cream ever since, but I haven't gone back to pizza and ice cream. I'm pretty strict on the diet still.
Another thing about your accidents. What? How much time did you? How much time passed between each accident? Because I've heard another thing from this from a Greek world class spearfishing champion that you have to stay 6 months off. But I assume that this is a rough number because from my first free diving certification, all this curiosity was coming up because everything regarding this DCS is rough. Like, just pure immeasurable things. Don't do many dives, have big surface intervals, don't do hot baths after free diving. So,
So between
timings.
between the between severe incident number 2 and severe incident number 3, it was almost 2 years. But in the middle of that, I had the very close call where I had a little bit of weakness in my hand, but I went underwater and it went away. But ultimately, it took 2 years from the second bad incident to the third bad incident. It took 8 months between the first bad incident and the second bad incident, and then 2 years between the second and the third.
Okay. And your daily training routine was like 50 meters or more.
Mm. Well, that first year, I was pretty consistently, by the time I got to Hawaii, I was pretty consistently over 50 meters almost every day during my training. But uh, uh, maybe 2 or 3 a day. But then when I got to around August time, I took a break between I took a break between like late July and all the way to September, and I kind of didn't do much any kind of deep diving. But then when I got to Dominica, I started diving again pretty consistently over well over 60 meters almost every day. I could go out and train. I'd probably take 1 day of rest every 4 days.
Okay. Yeah, maybe this obviously contributed somehow, as we said earlier. But it's very good news that you are at least 93% recovered compared to
Well,
going
some
first.
people wake up and they're like, I don't feel it. Some people wake up and they're like, I don't feel 100% today. I'm like, if you can move, if you can move, you're 100%. I'm basing this on movement. Like just, I can move my right arm like this. That's about as fast as I can move my left arm. Like I can move this arm like this. This one can move about that fast. So I'm not 100%. That's not being 100% in my opinion. Like I've certainly woken up on days where I'm like, I don't feel great. I'm definitely not feeling 100%, but I have a whole new perspective of what 100% now is.
Obviously.
But yeah, things went pretty smooth until they didn't. Like I said, I never really ran into issues until I broke 100 meters. After 100 meters, there was like a whole new rule set. And I feel like after 110 meters, there was another rule set that I had to kind of adjust. But basically, it all came down to rest. After 100 meters, like you can't consistently dive that deep unless you rest. It's impossible.
Rest, you mean also O2 recovery sessions?
For me, O2 recovery, but yeah, I've never seen anybody be able to dive consistently during their training season over 100 meters repetitively without running into issues without resting.
Okay.
But like I said, I feel like I did 3 years worth of training in that first year, and that's why I progressed so fast, so quickly. Um, I don't necessarily recommend it, but when people are like, wow, that's really fast, I'm like, it's all perspective. If you put in enough work, you'll progress even faster. But when I'm coaching people and I'm training people, I never suggest them to train the way that I did. I suggest them like, are they in a rush? No. Are they taking their time? That's all a factor. Like, what are your goals? That's what really matters. And normally, when I'm coaching people out here, just by default, I usually suggest 2 days on, 1 day off. If somebody's really, really ambitious, I'm like 3 days on, 1 day off. But at least from what I see when I'm coaching people, it's usually a much more healthier approach to take a 2 day on, 1 day off approach. Whereas when I was doing this, I was taking like no days off. And yeah, I progressed fast, but I also, I have crazy work ethic and I get obsessed about things. And that's why I abandoned having a life. And that's why I was doing this. And I understand most people want to have a life. They want to relax a little bit. They're not as obsessed as I get, you know? So I never really suggest to train how I did, which was just every day, whenever you can find a dive buddy, go do it. But it did get results. It's just for most people, I know most people are gonna be be benefited from going 2 days on and 1 day off. And in fairness, when I put people on 2 days on, 1 day off, I'm able to progress some people like this South African girl I just trained. She progressed from 25 to 50 meters in 5 sessions. That's that's fast. That's 5 meters a session, patient. That's the fastest I've ever progressed anybody. Before that, there were two other people that I progressed 17 meters over 6 sessions, and that's already plenty fast. So in essence, if you have a coach, you can progress faster than I did with less training. But I didn't have a coach. I was just kind of training alongside people and around people that were better than me. So I really wasn't getting coached. I just needed dive buddies. So there is a more effective way to do it if you have the money to spend on a coach. um, I mean, that South African girl is a great example of she was only diving 2 days on, 1 day off, and progressed 5 meters a session for 5 sessions, 25 to 50 meters. And yeah, she didn't train every day. We rested her every third day. She rested. So it's clearly possible to progress just as fast as I did with more rest days, but I was a different factor. I didn't have a coach. I trained hard. I just continued to train versus her. She had me as a coach. So I was telling her exactly what to do to progress her faster.
After some point, you were training to become the world champion. So, as far as I can understand, you had a plan like conventional sports plan. I mean, more reps, more volume, somehow like that. Because in free diving, there is this thing that is said that it's somehow alternative. Maybe invest a lot on the um, relaxation part, the emotional part of the sport. Do some yoga sessions. I don't know if you did any of this stuff or if you just crashing dives more and more volume.
Well, it was definitely more volume, but I identify with the non-physical stuff much more than I do the physical stuff. In my opinion, what I learned about the emotional and all the relaxing stuff, that's much more important than the volume that I did. But I couldn't have mastered that without the volume. So, in my opinion, the mechanical stuff I teach people when I'm coaching them, the mechanical stuff is just 1/3 of freediving. There's a whole nother 2/3 of freediving that has nothing to do with the physical stuff that I talk to people about. The first thing is, why are you doing it? If you don't know why you're freediving, or if you don't know why you're going down this stupid line and coming back up, why would you? And a lot of people don't ever identify with this, okay? Because every freediver has fear before they go down that rope. Why? Because what we're doing is really stupid. We're just holding our breath and we're going down a rope and we're coming back up. Our primitive brain understands this. So if there's a freediver on earth that says, I don't have any fear before I go underwater, they're lying. Every freediver has at least a little bit of fear before going underwater, because what we're doing is a little bit silly. Now, how do we overcome that fear? You can't truly overcome it, but you can keep it in check. The way you keep it in check is by understanding why you're doing this in the first place. And people often confuse what they're doing with why they're doing it. People might be like, hey, it's meditative. I like the challenge. It's beautiful under there. I like swimming with dolphins. I like swimming with whales. That's what they like about it. But when you're looking down a rope and it's just you're not doing it for the dolphins anymore. You're not doing it because it's beautiful. You're not doing it simply because it's meditative. Meditative is just what it is. And what I try to get people to identify with is why they're actually doing it in the first place. Because if you don't know why, then why would you? Like the people that climb Mount Everest, not one person that has climbed Mount Everest climbs that mountain just to get to the top. Like it means something symbolically to them. It means something much deeper to them to get to the top of that mountain. When they finally achieve that, they're not, hey, I finally made it to the top. No, it's a testament to something much deeper. And if you identify with that in freediving, you'll overcome the fear and you'll keep the fear in check every single dive. And so I constantly tell people, if you don't know why you're doing this, that's fine, but just ask yourself more often. And if you do identify with why you're doing it, remind yourself more often. So if you don't know, ask yourself more often. And if you do know, remind yourself more often. Because I see the fear on people's face. When I was in Hawaii, um, this is when I discovered this. Um, like I said, I had a lot of dive buddies, and we were all doing the same physical stuff, but I was progressing faster. And I didn't understand why I was progressing faster. But I started to understand shortly thereafter. I would see the fear on their eyes. And I'm like, I have the same fear, but why is the fear winning with them? The fear is winning with them because they don't know why they're doing this. And at the time, I didn't know I had a why, but I did. Like, I wanted to inspire other people. I wanted to show people that you can break a world record even if you haven't been doing this your whole life. Like, I've always had this deep-seated reason why I was waking up on a bad day and trying to go do a good dive. Like, 80% of every dive I've ever done, I did not wanna do on the morning I woke up. But I felt like I had this greater reason and this greater purpose of getting up in the morning to go do this dive. Like, I felt like I had to, not for me, but for something else. And that's my best definition for a reason why. Like, if your reason why is bigger than you and it has nothing to do with you and it's bigger than you, that is probably your reason why. If sometimes I'll have this conversation and somebody will start crying or tearing up, and I'm like, that's why you're doing it. You need to identify with that more often. And it's not incredibly important if you're just trying to go snorkel and you're a 15, 10-meter diver, 20-meter diver, but I think it's an important question to bring up quite often because after you're like 40, 50, 60-meter diver, like all of a sudden you're doing things the body just wasn't meant to do. And so it's important to identify with why you're doing it in the first place because what we're doing is kind of silly.
So basically, your specific why was to inspire people and show that a human can break the world record in such a small amount of time.
Overall, yeah. Yeah, I wanted to make that point to the world. And I think I did to a small extent. Um,
For sure.
like the person that ran the first 4-minute mile, his name was Roger Bannister, and that was supposed to be impossible. And then 2 weeks after he did it, somebody else did it. And then a week after that, somebody else did it. And now kids in high school are doing it. And so, and also, like I mentioned, it took 10 years for 3 Americans to break 100 meters. After I did it, it took 3 more months for 3 more Americans to break 100 meters. So
Yeah.
again, that knowing why you're doing this, that's only 1/3 of it. The mechanical stuff, that's 2/3. And then the last part is emotionally supercharging the dive. And that's a whole nother thing. But knowing why you're doing this in the first place, that will help you overcome fear every single dive. Because if you're doing it for a reason greater than yourself, you're more likely to not get in your own way.
Did you have a specific record you wanted to break, like a specific discipline or something?
I had a specific number, a retirement number, which was 152 meters, so 500 feet. That was the number
100?
hit. 152 meters. That was my retirement number. It's like
In which
500.
discipline?
Didn't matter. When I was doing free immersion, I thought it would be free immersion. Then I transferred over to monofin, so I was sure I would do it in monofin. Um, Still, if I get that free diving, I'm sure I've looked them up.
You mean constant weight? That's the
Yeah,
classification.
that's the way.
Okay, that's pretty crazy.
It's not so crazy. It's super.
I wish you'll do it. I think the current record is 135 meters.
I think 136 now.
Okay, okay, crazy.
But yeah, that record's safe for me as long as there's no more records for me until I get this whole thing squared away. But yeah, ultimately, um, yeah, the physical side of this, that's actually very easy. If you put in the volume, you can start to check out of your dives completely. So that other 3/3 of the free diving, like 1/3 of it is knowing why you're doing it. 2/3 of it is the mechanical stuff that we're always doing in the water to better ourselves. That's the volume. Once you put in enough volume, you can completely check out during your dives. You can go wherever you want in your head. So what you choose to focus on during the dive is entirely up to you. And that's the last part of it. That's the cream on the top. Like you can go places in your head that just you can't go on the surface because the pressure, the depth. You can go to the most lovely places in your head while you're underwater, but you can't do that unless you put the volume in, unless you have the muscle memory. Like, I remember when I started playing around with this concept, I just thought to myself, it's like, I dive so much. I do this every day. It makes sense that I can just check out during my dives. I don't have to focus on my dive anymore. I can just go wherever I want in my head. So I tried to go somewhere peaceful in my head, and it kind of worked. It worked as well as it would. And one day I started to think about this really fat cat I used to have growing up. This really, really fat cat. And he used to sleep on my chest every day for like 15 years. And he'd purr really loud. And we would go to sleep like that every night for 15 years. And the feeling I get just thinking about that, that's all of a sudden the feeling that I had underwater. And that's when I unlocked this new ability where, like, all of a sudden I wasn't fighting the obstacles to go underwater. I was all of a sudden just floating right through them. Because I was trusting the volume, I was trusting the muscle memory that I had. And now I was like embraced in this memory that I had of a cat that I know I loved. Like that feeling that I had for that cat. Like, I guess it's debatable whether I've ever truly been in love with a woman. Like, I think I have, but I know for 100% sure the way that I felt about that cat, I know that was love. I know that was love. And so that was the feeling I had underwater. And it was the direct result of I had done so much volume and so much repetition that I could now just go to this really special place in my memory of me and this cat. And all of a sudden, I was overwhelmed with that exact motion of love underwater. And I run into the bottom weight at like 97 meters, and I'm like, that was the easiest dive I've ever done. I was like, this is the icing on the cake right here. This is how you free dive. This is why you should free dive. Like, this is the best part of it right here. Being able to go to that motion and that emotion and that memory, that became the overwhelming best part of every dive. Like being able to check out. Like, you've done all the work, you can just now enjoy the dive and go to this very special place in your head.
This sounds,
It's a very hard thing to do.
but it sounds to me more or less like training your meditation ability, your mind in a way to meditate, something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, after that, I played around a little bit more. I was like, okay, let me think about other memories that I know love was present. And so I would think about my grandparents who would like come pick me up from like preschool or daycare. They would pick me and my brother up and we would go get ice cream. Like, I know that was love. I know that was love. And I'll think about that when I'm underwater. Like any memory that I have that I know love was present, I can think about those memories and it just supercharges my dive.
During the relaxation
That's
phase,
kind of
the
that's it. Oh,
the divers would.
yeah. It works really well during the breathe up. It works even better at depth. Yeah. And I know divers that are like, you need to be in the moment, at the moment, every moment. I understand that concept as well, but I really enjoy the dive more when I go to these places in my head of these memories. And I just trust that my body's going to do what I need it to do because of all the repetition.
So it's a combination of trusting everything you have done during the years and the meditation muscle.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
You do this kind of thing during the competition. The
I absolutely do enjoy competition. I go to my fat cat memory first, and then I'll try to filter through some other memories, and it works every time. It works like a charm. And I do it on most of my training dives too. Yeah. Like, but here's the thing though, like I've taken so much, this is the longest break I've taken in freediving since the injury. And so if, when I finally get back to the water and I'm diving deep again, I can't just flip a switch and get back to this.
Yeah.
Like, it would be impossible. Like, I would need to put in some serious repetition and volume again to be able to find that place again in my head. Because I've taken small breaks and gotten back to the water, and I can't just jump into those memories anymore. I need to get my feet wet again. I need to build the muscle memory slightly, and then I'm back to it. It doesn't take long, but you can't take what is now an 8-month break like I've taken and just jump right back into these happy memories. But it's what I would do when I was training consistently. It was much easier to jump back into those memories.
You mean because of the break you had?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You can't practice this meditation muscle right now on your bed, for
I
example.
could, but I'm not. But I could, but I'm not. I'm not diving anymore. Like, there is visualization exercises that I do and I teach, and those are sincerely the most boring but most intense thing that I teach people. Like, it's truly remarkable how well prepared you could be for a dive just by visualizing it second by second. And that's a whole nother animal. And I learned to do that specifically to train me under narcosis because I get really strong narcosis.
Actually, I remember one of your videos where you dive like 100 meters with the selfie stick, and you mentioned this thing.
Yeah, I don't usually remember any of my ascent during a dive that deep. Like, I just have to trust the other guy knows what he's doing.
What do you mean you don't
It's very
you
rare
don't
that
remember turning to the bottom?
I remember the bottom turn. That's it.
Okay.
Like, I have a video of me finishing like a 112-meter dive, and I have a video of me high-fiving somebody at the surface, and that's the first thing I remember after my bottom turn. And that high five happened 50 seconds after I surfaced. So that's how
I'm not sure
this.
about this terminology, narcosis and stuff, but are you sure that this is because of this narcosis and not DCS, for example?
Yeah, it's 100% narcosis because I didn't have decompression sickness on any of these occasions. They were just really nice, enjoyable dives, and somebody happened to be video recording me at the surface, and I watched the timer, and at 50 seconds after surfacing, you see me high five somebody, and that was the first thing I remember doing after my bottom turn. So I got really used to being so narked during a dive. I've never met another freediver that gets as much narcosis as me. Um, on my best day, I'll remember some of the ascent, but the reason I started to visualize my dives so intensely the day before the dive was so that I could train myself to do certain things during narcosis. Like, I would train myself to look at the safeties and like flex at them on the way up just to see if this was working, just to see if I would say other Tory. So Tory under narcosis, I would call that other Tory. And so if I needed other Tory to do something, I would train him intensely the day before with the visualizations, and he would do it if I trained him the day before with the visualizations.
To just
I would have
assign
for doing it, but he,
the safeties.
yeah. Like, if I needed other Tory to do surface protocol perfectly, I had to train it every day the day before, at least 20 times intensely. So it would take about an hour and a half to run through about 20 dives
Crazy.
in a row. Because every time I never did that, my surface protocol would be all shit because Narcosis Tory apparently doesn't know how to do surface protocol unless I make sure he knows the day before how to do it.
Okay. Would you like to also talk about the prior years and dancing and
Oh, yeah, that was
life journey until freediving?
fun, man. That's my passion. Like, dancing, that's my passion. And the only reason I found freediving was because of COVID. If COVID didn't happen, I probably would still be in the entertainment industry, still dancing. Uh, and even after this decompression sickness, it's like I don't I don't yearn to get back to depth so quickly, but I've been in environments where people are dancing and it's like I really want to dance again, but I can't do that yet. Um, but yeah, the prior years, man, that was a lot of fun. So like when I quit drinking and doing drugs back in 2007, I
2007.
instantly, yeah, been
How
like
old are
over
you?
17 years, almost 40 now, 39.
39. Okay. So 2007, you were
That's
long.
22.
Okay.
So when I quit drinking and doing drugs, it was like I wasn't sure what I should do if I was in a bar, on a date, or at a club or something. And so I instantly thought, okay, maybe if I just go to the dance floor and dance really badly, I won't drink. I won't do something stupid. And so that's how it started. I just started if I was on a date and we were at a place where there's alcohol, I would go to the dance floor and I really wasn't that good, but I would just dance. And I ended up having a better time on those dates than I had ever had drinking because I was a really bad drunk. Like I was terrible. I just I don't know how to drink responsibly or anything. Like it's just really bad. And I really enjoy even though I was dancing terribly, I was really enjoying it. And then fast forward a few years, all of a sudden I'm getting a little bit better at dancing, not really great, but a little bit better. And it just became something I actually enjoyed doing. I would run into people that also like to dance, like break dancers and stuff. And we would just meet up on the weekends and do like break dancing and stuff like in clubs and like put on these free shows. And eventually I showed up to a nightclub many years later and I'm a lot better at dancing now. And I'd show up many years later and I'd show up to a club and these girls would be like, "Hey, are you one of the dancers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I dance. What are you talking about?" And I guess a male review show had just finished and they thought I was one of the dancers from the show. And I was like, "What are they talking about?" And so I see the guy that's running that show and they're tearing everything down. And I'm like, I could totally do this. Like, let me do this next time you do it. And the guy's like, "Hey, do you have a routine that you can do? Do you have your own clothing, all that stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, it's like, "Come back next month when we do this again and I'll put you on stage and you just do your routine." I was like, "I'm already out here. I'm already dancing every single weekend with my buddies, putting on a show, having fun." I'm like, "This is no different. I'm just going to dress up in a costume, provide my own music, and I'm going to do the same thing." And that's what I did. It was a lot of fun. Like it was the same thing, but more fun. I had a bigger audience all of a sudden. And I started to do this every week once I started doing that, and I was really enjoying it. And then one day somebody was like, "Hey, why don't you just apply to be a Chippendale?" So I went online, I applied to be a Chippendale, and they called me like 2 days later, wanted to fly me out and audition me. And so I thought it was going to be a big audition, but I was the only one that showed up. So all I needed to do was not be an asshole and be able to dance, and I got the job. And that's exactly what happened. Then I started to tour on the world tour with them for about 5 years from what was it 2015 to right before COVID happened. And so there was 20 of us, 20 dancers, and 10 of us would be on the world tour. And so 6 months of the year we would spend in Europe, all of Europe, Eastern and Western Europe. About a month and a half we'd spend in Asia, and then another month and a half we would spend touring the United States. And the rest of the time would kind of be off time. But that's what I did for 5 years. And it was a lot of fun, man. We would put on shows in big auditoriums, anywhere from 500 to 5,000 people at each show. And there's nothing I love more than entertaining a crowd. Like it's what it's been in my heart and soul since I was a kid trying to entertain people. And so this was an amazing, it was a really fulfilling job up until COVID happened. And then everything kind of shut down. And I found nature, started holding my breath for no reason.
You can absolutely ignore my frozen face. because of the first time I do a podcast, but I'm completely thrilled right now about everything you described. You're completely crazy in the good way.
I don't see a frozen face.
I am a little because I'm like, you know. So you were living in Florida, and I've heard about this Chip and Dales. You said
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you've mentioned in one of your videos that it's a club from Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's a Las Vegas production.
Okay, so you were like, you just heard it from your friend. Let's apply, and if they take me, we're off to the world tour.
Yeah, I didn't think anything would happen of it. Like I had videos of my performances in Florida and I applied to be a Chippendale. I provided them a link to a video of me dancing during one of the shows. And they called me 2 days later. They're like, "Hey, are you free? Can we fly you out to audition?" Like I thought it was a fake. I thought it was a prank call, but yeah, it was real. I was like absolutely ecstatic. It was really a dream come true. Like because I never thought I really enjoyed dancing. I never thought something that I enjoyed that much would just all of a sudden pay the bills and really well and help me travel the world. It was really a dream come true, just being able to travel, dance, perform for people. Like that call was really a dream come true.
So obviously, even it seems to me as well as a dream come true. You are advocate for the saying, make your hobby a profession, right?
It
Because
hasn't
many
happened
people
by accident, man.
disagree with that. For example, could say that when you start making money from your hobby, it makes it may maybe stop you of enjoying that much. For example.
Well, yeah, I know. I kind of agree with that a little bit because um, when I was doing Chippendales, at a certain point, I got more responsibilities. Like for the first 2 years, all I did was dance, perform, and that was my favorite time. Then when I started to enter into a management kind of role, when I was dance captain, that's the position. Like I was all of a sudden in charge of everybody, choreography and stuff, like making sure everybody's doing it right. When I had to start managing other people, I enjoyed it a lot less. And so when I came over to freediving, I thought same thing could happen. Like I'm enjoying freediving, I'm loving freediving. Um, it worked for dancing, so let's see if it can also work for freediving. And that was kind of the goal, to make it work for freediving. Just continue doing this until somehow it pays the bills. It didn't work the same way, but I also remember I didn't enjoy managing other people when I was with Chippendales. I didn't enjoy like making sure everybody else was dancing correctly. And so I stayed away from coaching and teaching in freediving because I didn't want to lose the passion that I had for the actual diving itself. Like it's no mystery, it's no secret how hard it can be to train yourself and teach others. It's very hard. And so I didn't even coach or train people in the official sense until the beginning of 2024. Like I only started
Mhm.
teaching and coaching last year. And it was because I needed to finally start making extra income. So I was forced into a position where I needed more income.
It's not the same, obviously, to be an instructor free diving or with being the manager of all of this production, right? Or you are mentioning
Well,
that
it's a
is
small
similar.
similarity. It's a small similarity in that so there's 10 guys, right? And if I'm in charge of teaching them choreography for the show, it's kind of the same as teaching somebody how to freedive.
Okay.
Freediving is nothing but or choreography. We're just not it's not the same stage.
If you think that all of this, I don't know, body awareness that comes from dancing, or let's say better, it's required for dancing, gave you something like a huge advantage in
Yeah,
freediving?
in hindsight, I think it did because most people that are that have more muscle or more physically built, they actually don't do so well in the water, at least at first. And I do think the acrobatic athletic side and body awareness and dancing, I do think it helped a lot in helping me progress physically in freediving. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because most of the freediving champions I've heard about were something like a swimmer prior to this.
I've certainly gotten
By the way, I don't know what's happening with my shoulder.
I've certainly
I'm like
I've
this.
certainly gotten much more slender over time, but I started out much more muscular and I've slendered down over time. And there's no question the ultimate freediving body is a more slender body. There's no question. Like when I first started freediving, the amount of burning in my muscles underwater was I couldn't find a video online explaining to me why my body was burning so much in freediving. Like I couldn't dive 10 meters without my legs just burning up on the way up. It just there's just so much muscle. More muscle you have, the more oxygen you need. Very simple concept. And almost everybody that was freediving didn't have these issues because they didn't have that amount of muscle to deal with. But it's a really hard thing to deal with at first. And over time, clearly I don't notice it anymore, not even close. But yeah, I was surprised not many people talk about the muscular aspect and the downside to being so muscular in the water. It really sucked at first for me. Like I couldn't bifin at all confidently, like without burning up my legs. Like I was scared to bifin 20 meters just because of the kind of burning that would happen.
Sorry, this is a very interesting point as well, but I don't know how bad are my English. I tried to state something different. I said like you obviously had a huge body awareness because of the dancing, but most of the champions or very good free divers or people that I see that have an advantage are people who come from
Yeah.
swimming. So they obviously are very, very comfortable in moving underwater.
Yeah. For sure, the more I
This could translate to a record.
yeah, the more ideal body type is certainly that of a swimmer. There's no question. At least I think so.
Not because of the body type. I talk about it because of the knowledge, of the know-how.
Look at your shoulder. Your shoulder's still crooked.
It's very, very off. I
I
don't know
think I didn't
why.
even notice it until you mentioned it. And now I can't not notice it.
Me too. It's because I use my iPhone as a webcam, and I don't know. It's on the side, but what the fuck? Okay. Obviously, it's gonna stay there. It's not going anywhere. It's like that the last
If you
hour.
didn't mention it, I wouldn't have noticed it.
But I should let you know because I notice it and I'm like, what the fuck's happening?
But yeah, man, yeah, I don't know how I dived into the muscular and the burning and stuff, but yeah, most freedivers are of an athletic swimmer type build. The body awareness they have in swimming in the pool, I think that translates to freediving. The body awareness I had in dancing, I think that also translates to freediving for sure. I think that gave me an edge up as far as like being a muscular person and getting into diving.
Are you a good
I'm a terrible swimmer. Absolutely. Like I sink very well, and I come back up decently, but swimming? No, not good at all.
Okay.
I don't even think I have a good connection with the water like most people.
Obviously, you do have, but okay, I can take that you are not a good swimmer.
I mean, would you agree that most Like there are some people that just have this connection with the water. I don't think I have that.
What do you mean,
Like people that are more
connection with the water?
comfortable in water than other people. People that seem to have this connection. This
I think this comes through practice.
well,
No.
like I've met people that are like they can go out onto the beach and just get into the water at night and just float in the water and just like totally be at home and like one with the universe. But if I went and did that, I'd actually be scared. I don't think I have this connection with the water like most people do in freediving. Like most freedivers have this unspoken, intangible connection with the water, and I'm not sure if I've ever actually had that.
Obviously, you met way more free divers than me, so
Like I think
there
my
should be a
connection with
point
the water
in
is
that.
based
But
on repetition and volume. Whereas like I think there are people in the world that instantly have this connection with the water that I've never fully identified with.
okay, I only thought about the repetition part of this because, for example, my logic says that if he's a German guy who never been to the sea and comes to a pool or the sea, he may be not able
Yeah.
to swim. But if it's a Greek guy who is at the sea from 2 years old, he will be
Yeah, that's a good point.
connected.
Yeah.
Or, for example, here I see some mountains around the region I'm at, and most of the people are very comfortable skiing or snowboarding and this and that. But if you don't have this close
Yeah, that makes sense.
and you go for the first time, you can't be.
Yeah, maybe most of
That's
these
why I was asking you if you were a
I think
swimmer.
most of these people that I think have a connection with the water probably grew up around the water. Um, maybe what I'm also trying to say is I think there's a lot more people that are more talented than me in freediving. Like they have a natural gift for it. Whereas like I think all of my progression is 100% based on repetition and work ethic. And I think I've seen people that I feel I watch them and I'm like, they're way more talented than me. The reason I progress so fast is because of the repetition and the hard work that I put in such a short amount of time.
What was the most intense feeling in free diving regarding your progress level or breaking a record? I don't know. What was one of the most intense moments during the journey to the record?
Uh, what I already shared with you was the most intense revelation when I discovered how to unlock these emotions underwater, like the memory I have of my cat. That was a huge revelation. As far as breaking records, like the first one that I broke, that was monumental. Like it felt amazing. But the first time I broke 100 meters in the water, just in training, not in competition, was way more important to me. Like when people say training dives don't count, like that doesn't sit well with me. Like the training dives count even more, in my opinion. That's the raw part of it. Like the competition stuff just makes it official. And I love competition, but like the first time I went to Mexico and I went from, 35-meter diver to 45-meter diver within 2 weeks, like that blew my mind. Like all of a sudden, what I thought was impossible was all of a sudden like maybe I can break a world record. Like maybe this isn't as hard as I thought it was. Maybe every personal best dive, every PB you get, nope, not all PBs are created equal. Like some tickle more than others. And those are the ones that really matter. Those are the ones that you walk away from a diving session and you're like, wow, what I thought was impossible is possible. Like I need new goals now. Like, wow, I can be a 100-meter diver. Wow, I can be an 80-meter diver. Holy crap, I'm already a 50-meter diver. I would have never thought. Like every free diver, if they haven't had that moment, should really strive to have that moment. Because breaking a record in competition, it feels great, but none of that really holds a candle to those training sessions that unlock things, you know? Like when the veil is all of a sudden the curtain is moved and the veil is lifted, and all of a sudden what you thought was impossible is now like a lot more possible. So there was a lot of stepping stones to answer your question as far as like moments leading up to records and stuff.
Okay, yeah, but obviously it's an amazing feeling to surpass yourself. For example, me going from 20 meters to 30 meters, but it's a whole different game when you are up to 100 meters and you're like, okay, now I'm one of the 100 people in the world that can go this deep.
Sure. Um, like
That's what I'm trying to like. I started 3 years ago. Okay, I said I'm going to become the world champion, and I'm actually might be.
yeah, I never didn't believe it, and if if there were times where I started to not believe it, other people believed it even when I didn't, and that helped me believe it because I would tell them that I believed it. So even if I started to doubt myself, other people that were my friends that knew me and loved me believed I could do it, and it would give me strength when I wasn't sure. Um, Other people, like your support system in freediving, has a lot to do with being able to progress so quickly. Like other people can be your superpower, like you trusting them during your dive. I could have never done this. Like I already told you, I feel very uncomfortable in the water by myself. So I could have never done this without every single dive buddy I've ever had. Like all of my records are not my own. They are a quantity of all my dive buddies that have helped train with me over this entire period of time. So my records really aren't my own. They are everybody's that chose to train with me.
Okay. It could make some people emotional for you saying that.
I used to say it all the time. If you look at the Instagram posts
Um,
from way back then, like anytime I achieved anything, I'm always writing. I'm like, shout out to all my dive buddies that were part of this journey. Like, couldn't have done it without you. I take very little credit for every accomplishment. Like, it was always a work. It was always a group effort. It never wasn't.
how is life in Philippines? It's a
Uh,
completely random topic, but
it's it's
I'm just curious.
affordable, very quick access to depth. That's why I was here in the first place. But if I'm not training, maybe I can go to Bali now. Um, so like I've been to Dominica, I've been to Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas, and those places probably provide a more consistent, ideal atmosphere for freediving itself. But the Philippines has probably, at least here in Panglao, has the best balance of living and diving. So, like if you go to Dominica, the cost is a little bit higher. Well, actually, a lot higher. Um, and the diving is like so streamlined. Like you'll progress really well there, but you're in the middle of a jungle, and if there is a restaurant that exists, it might not be open. Like you don't have these small amenities in Dominica. But here in the Philippines, like you can easily go dive, have very quick access to depth, very cheap, very affordable. And after your dive session, you can go to any number of restaurants. Like you don't have to sacrifice any quality of living while you're here if you don't want to. Whereas other places in the world that are renowned for diving deep, they're so remote that you start to sacrifice living at a certain point. And it certainly depends on who you are. But like I thought when I went to Dominica, like I could live in the jungle, I'll be fine. But after 7 months, I learned I need some, I need something. And after I left Dominica, I went to Roatan and I competed in my first competition, and I had access to restaurants again and stuff. And I had no idea how much I would crave that after such a long period of time. And that's when I realized, like, I don't think I can go back to such a remote location again, at least for long term. I think for 6 weeks, it's good, but like anything longer, I'm not built for that. I need some kind of living amenities like what I have here. So I went from
Okay.
Dominica to Roatan, And in Dominica, there's not really many restaurants, and they're probably not open most of the time, even if there are. But then in Roatan, there's plenty of restaurants. There's plenty of quality of living there. Um, and so I went from Dominica to Roatan, and that's when I learned how much I crave having those little small things like a coffee shop or a restaurant or being able to order things and have it delivered. Or like you can here in the Philippines, you can order almost everything online that you would order in the United States. It's just going to take a little longer to get here. Places like Dominica, you can't do that. Places like the Bahamas are super expensive, super hot, nothing to do. And I learned through experience that if you're going to dive in places that are that remote, I'm not built to stay there longer than 6 weeks and be happy. But somewhere like the Philippines here, there's plenty to do outside of the diving that can keep me busy and keep me happy. And I need restaurants. I need coffee shops.
How many people live in the city you are now located?
Not exactly sure.
An estimation.
I don't know. That's a ChatGPT question. I'll ask it right now. How many people live in Panguao, Philippines? Yeah. It says 40,000 people as of 2020.
Okay. Any other bigger cities nearby?
Cebu. That's like a hour and a half ferry away, but Cebu's a shithole, man. Like I've never really enjoyed being there.
Okay. You said 40,000.
40,000.
40,000. Okay. It's a small city.
Yeah, there's one McDonald's. Very small, but I judge the size of a city based on how many McDonald's they have. If they have one McDonald's, that's just right for me. It has about
Okay.
5 or 6 7-Elevens, so that's the size we're looking at here.
Okay, cool. So you think you mentioned earlier that you plan to move to Bali, or are you
I
staying
haven't
there?
been to Bali, but it's right next door. Apparently, it's a even higher quality of living, same price. My only concern, what's stopping me at the moment, is I have a pretty consistent flow of people to coach and pay bills here, and I don't want to assume it's just gonna. I don't want to assume that I'll just be so successful in Bali as I am here with coaching people, because I've seen people come from
Okay.
Dahab, the Philippines, very successful coaching in Dahab, come here and not be so successful in coaching here. And so I don't want to assume that after establishing myself here that people will just follow me to Bali. So if I have a good
Yeah.
money cushion, I'll probably go there and experiment and see if I can stay there longer term. But again, I was only in Panguao, Philippines because I had quick access to really fast depth. And if I'm not training like that anymore, well, I should have my options opened up again. Other things to do.
Okay. Regarding the free dive training, what do you think about that? And recovery, obviously, regarding the training, free dive training, and recovery process.
I mean, I'm not training at all. The only training I'm doing is like safety and people at 20, 25 meters right now. And I'm in the, I'm in the
Okay.
gym limited.
So I thought you didn't dive at
No,
all.
I'm still coaching people on the water, so I'm like safetying down to 20, 25 meters. Um, and I'm not really doing much in the gym recently. I'm more focused on physical therapy type stuff, quality of movement over strength of movement kind of stuff. So anything I do right now, that there's absolutely almost zero free dive training I'm doing, unless you want to count what I'm doing coaching as training, and in my opinion, not training. It's just some leg
How,
working out.
how do you feel
What do you mean?
during these dives?
Pretty comfortable.
When you do dives at 20
Pretty
meters.
comfortable.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm 93%. So like where I can kick my right leg like this, my left leg is more like moving like this. I can maybe move it that fast. So I've dove as deep as 40 meters in my current condition, no problem. But I don't exactly enjoy it like I used to because it takes a little bit more effort.
And your the percentage that you're mentioning, the 93%, it's the same during the dives and outside of the water.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I certainly swim better than I walk, I think, but not a lot better. The first time I got in the water after this happened and swam, actually I wasn't swimming better than I was walking at all. Like my body didn't the left side of my body didn't know how to deal with an absence of gravity, but my body adapted to the water a lot faster than my body adapted to walking on land again, if that makes sense. Like now, I definitely swim better than I walk for sure.
Yeah, but there is no substantial
No.
difference. Like something happens when you go under pressure. That was the point I was trying to
No,
make.
and it makes sense that if like I experimented once, um, long after, maybe 3 months after the incident, going back underwater with 100% oxygen. We only did it once. I didn't see any improvement, but I believe over an extended period of time, it would be beneficial. But it would take, I think, so much time because there isn't any improvement. I've been coaching every day for the past more than a week, and I'm doing plenty of 20-meter drops all in one session. There's no improvement at all. But it would make sense if I had 100% oxygen with me and
Okay.
I was going down deep, like at least 5, 7, 8 meters. I do think that would benefit me over a longer period of time. But that's a whole different story.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no improvement just from regular diving.
You know, all this knowledge that you can hear about, besides from people that had serious injuries or doctors, it's I would say all over the place.
Yeah, it's gonna be all over the place.
There are people that spearfish like in 40 meters of depth, and they don't know that this type of accident can happen in free diving, which is crazy.
Crazy, but it'll happen more often, and then we'll get a bigger data set of people. But we live in the stone age of understanding this stuff. So I don't think we're ever going to understand more than what we're sharing. Most of the people that talk about this stuff have no experience with it. And the people that have experienced it don't talk about it enough. Um, but yeah, it's a land of mystery. And I hope that my YouTube videos, at least over a longer period of time, can inspire some other people to talk about their incidents as well. Like after this happened to me, like I had other freedivers I hadn't known that experienced decompression sickness reach out and tell me their story. It wasn't many, but people I wasn't aware of that it had happened to. So YouTube, the videos are going to stay there forever as long as internet's alive. And so hopefully those videos can reach out to other people. People can mention stuff in the comments. People ambitious enough can make their own videos. That would be great.
I'm sure they will reach many people.
But I think it's 9 o'clock. So if there's other things you want to talk about, we should try to wrap it up probably within the next 15 minutes.
I would tell you as well that we are just below this to our recording time, so we could close it in like some minutes.
Okay.
But it's obviously the circumstances suboptimal, as well as my ability to speak to you and ask you some questions. But it's my
No, it's
first
good.
time,
It's your shoulder though.
and I really you. But for real, I really appreciate you being here and talking to me about
Well,
everything.
I'm interested in
much.
how this Descript thing works because I know Descript, it's a really good AI tool, and it probably works better than Zoom because Zoom cuts you off after like 45, 50 minutes and you got to restart it. So I'd be really interested in the quality of this.
I'll send you the video.
Yeah, send a link.
I'll send you the video and we can check it
Yeah, I'd be
together.
very interested in the quality of it because Descript and all these AI tools are doing really well right now.
100%.
Like I currently use like Adobe Podcast to run all of my audio through, and it doesn't matter how bad the audio is, it makes it very acceptable. Yeah, I'm glad you're using this particular platform. I'm interested in the quality that it returns.
Okay, one last thing. In general, how do you see the future of freediving as a sport?
I don't forecast it being in the Olympics anytime soon because things like blackouts still are so scary to the general public that even in regular freediving competitions, most of the time, they don't want to show it. But personally, I think that's what makes freediving the most interesting to the most amount of people. Like, I hate to say this, but at the CMAS World Championship this past year, during free immersion day, um, I saw more people black out on the men's day than I had ever seen in a competition. What I hear is that the rope was very stretchy. And so, if you know anything about free immersion, if you have a stretchy rope and you're diving really deep, it's such a bad feeling. And so, I'm not sure how accurate that is. That's just what I heard from a few sources. But my point is that so many people blacked out on men's free immersion day. And I hate to say this, but it was the most entertaining competition I had ever seen. So I think it would be more widely accepted and entertaining to the public if the freediving community was more open to showing this kind of stuff. Because anybody that knows anything about freediving knows blacking out is one of the less severe incidents. As long as you got a dive buddy and a safety, it's a very safe incident to recover from. And so when we keep treating it like this taboo thing, freediving will also be treated like a taboo thing. And so I think the best way to make it a sport in the future is to be more open to showing the bad side of this stuff, I guess. I
Yeah, that's a very
I
interesting
do
point.
also think that the popularity will grow, just not really fast. And again, I don't think it'll be accepted in the Olympics or have some mainstream accountability anytime soon. But I do think it's growing, and I think people are getting better faster, just like I did, because there's now a blueprint on how to do it. Like people like me have proven that it can be done, so other people know that it can be done. Um, and so I think there's going to be more 100-meter divers every single year, and it's going to start compounding exponentially. And I think the record of 152 meters, which is my retirement record, I think, I think that is going to be the constant record for sometime within the next 10 years, for sure. Whether it's me or somebody else doing it.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think the recording is going
Yeah,
to shut
no
down.
problem.